Hey guys, Dr. Dex here. Today I'm going to show you how to properly flash a deck. Some of you may not even know what flashing is or have never used it before, so this is just an instructional video on why and what you need to make that happen. So if you like this video, don't forget, click that subscribe button. So what I have here is a simulated house wall and a pre-installed ledger board to the house. This is where our deck's going to go. And one of the most important things that you can do to a deck, it costs the least amount to do, and it'll cost you the most amount of damage if you don't do it, is adding flashing to your deck. And what flashing does is it waterproofs the connection from your ledger to the wall. So the first thing that's not done on this wall is that there's no waterproof membrane tape behind the ledger. So what I always do on every deck build is before I mount a ledger to the wall, I install waterproof membrane tape. And this is wet right now, so normally the house is gonna be dry in this area. It's peel and stick, so I would peel away a 9-inch piece or maybe a 12-inch piece, and I would stick it right to the wall. More on this tape later, but let's get into flashing, what it is and how it works. So usually flashing is made of steel or aluminum, and it comes bent in a profile. This is called 1.5" Z-metal flashing. So 1.5" means it's 1.5" this way from the point that it drips over to the point it goes up. On this particular piece, it has a 2-inch rise. This side goes up against the wall, and then it has about a 1/2 inch to 3/8 to a 1/2 inch lip that hangs over. So here's your ledger board, here's your wall. Now, depending on how this is trimmed, you may have siding on the wall. Sometimes, depending on the type of deck we're building, we'll peel this back up to a certain height. Or if it's feasible, if it's lap siding or something, bevel, then we'll loosen that piece of bevel, we'll clear all the nails up underneath the bevel so that we can slide this 2-inch piece of flashing up and into position. Now, it's always easier to do this before the joists are installed on the deck. So even if you have to pre-install the flashing and get it up out of the way or something like that, go ahead and do that. But always install your flashing before you install your joists. It just makes it a lot easier. Trust me, I've done it always. All different ways. There's many ways to do this. You just want to make sure you're doing it, okay? So on a standard deck build, we'll either use this type of flashing, Z-metal, so that once your siding comes down, you have your deck board that sits like this, and you still have 1 inch or so of metal that goes up the wall, and then your siding detail will come down and cover that up. So any weather that comes in, it has to hit that, and then it'll hit this piece of flashing, and then it will drain away and down, so it's not going behind the ledger board, which is really bad for the house. But at least we have that protective layer of G-tape behind this in case water does get back there somehow. This is going to help protect the house and take the moisture down and out versus down the wall and into the interior of the home. That's probably our tried and true method, but before we finish, if you're going to have any fasteners going through this metal, you just created a leak. So just to be able to protect that potential, I usually take waterproof membrane tape like so, and I'm going to go in and at least I'm going to tape the top edge like this, and you could use 2-inch for this. I'm gonna tape the top of this so that any fastener I put through this is gonna be sealed up before it hits the metal. The screw's gonna be self-sealing so that moisture won't go through this and then potentially get behind this and into the wall of the house. I can't tell you how many times we've done demos after demo. We find so much rot and decay because people don't flash the ledger to the house. It could have been a weekend warrior that built a previous deck, an older contractor, we don't need it, whatever. Like I said before, one of the cheapest methods to keep the moisture out of the wall of the house. Okay, and in certain circumstances, we've also just used waterproof membrane tape as our flashing, where we just came in, and we might use a piece of 6-inch, so we can come up the wall, and then on top of the joist, and then roll it over the top of the ledger like that. That's basically doing the same thing, and once the first board's installed, you're not gonna have any wear and tear on that piece. So I like to do a combination of both because I'm a professional and I'm an overachiever. So, but I've also done this both ways. I've done it singularly with G-tape, and I've done it also with just the metal because I didn't have any fasteners going through the metal. Okay, but again, this is a great way to add extra insurance to your deck project to make sure that that doesn't leak. And again, can't stress enough, guys, how important this step is when you're building your deck, okay? So in the past, maybe I've needed to go up the wall higher than 2 inches because of that. Sometimes I'll use a 3-inch by 2-inch profile. This is a galvanized metal flashing. And what I've done, you could use this 2 different ways. You can go up the wall 3 inches. That way you have 2 inches of metal above your decking, and it'd be really hard. And then you could also tape this. If you have the availability to take a layer of your siding off, then you could even tape this like this over the top of your flashing, and you can go up as high as you want, really. Just again, another layer. We're gonna nail this every 2 to 4 feet to keep it in place. But once the decking's installed, this really isn't gonna go anywhere, depending on if there's any fasteners, again, going into the metal. If you're gonna have fasteners in the metal, I recommend that you put some waterproof membrane tape on it. It sticks really well to galvanized and metal flashing, like so. So when you add those screws, you're not creating a leak. And again, if you wanted to get the moisture, maybe you have a spot that really gets wet, you may consider doing a 3x3 or having the 3-inch lip hang out that far so the water has a drip line that's about 1.5 inches away from the ledger. It's another viable option if you need that additional drip edge or whatever. I doubt it's gonna curl back that far. I've done this before as well, just in certain circumstances, just depending on what you have for your eaves of your home. If there's no eaves and it gets a lot of weather, you're gonna wanna protect that as much as you possibly can. And then here's one other product that we have that we use all the time for our waterproof bladder system. This is EPDM Pond Liner. And whenever we're doing a waterproof deck, we like to run the EPDM 6 inches up the wall. Every time we do a waterproof bladder on a deck, we're pulling 6 inches of material off the side of the house, and we're running every single bladder piece 6 inches up the wall. So any water that ever gets up in here has to find a path back into the bladder and work its way out to the outside of the deck. Lately, we've been doing a lot of bladders, so we've been ripping a lot of siding off the sides of houses and then doing retrims. And actually, I think we'll shoot a separate video on that when the time is right about how to trim out a waterproof bladder, what we started with and how we finished it. But the whole idea here is that we're getting this up the wall enough to where I don't care what kind of monsoon comes in, the water's not getting past this. And this also qualifies as flashing. And again, usually we're taping the seams of all this stuff. So we run the joist tape wherever there's a seam right here, and that's where the screw would go from fastening the decking. So that's covered as well. There you go, guys. You can pick this product up at your local lumber yard. Sometimes I get it at Home Depot when I'm in a pinch and they have flashing in one of the aisles there in the building materials section. Just pick up some 1.5 Z metal. Make sure it's 1.5 because they sell everything from like 3/8, 1/2 inch, Z, 3/4, 1 inch. The thing that's got me before, I've even had yard guys give me 1.25 instead of 1.5, and then 1.25 doesn't fit on your ledger like it's supposed to. So then you have an issue. You got to take all that back and get 1.5, and that's frustrating when you're ready to build and you're ready to put the flashing in, and you can't because it doesn't reach the shoulder of this board and it's short. That's super frustrating. Just make sure you got that 1.5 Z metal. If you have an 1.5 ledger, now if your ledger happens to be thinner than that, then you'll have to get the according size flashing for that. It seems like a very simple step. It could save you potentially thousands of repair dollars in the future. So don't forget to put the flashing on your deck. You know how to do it now, so go out. And don't forget, click that subscribe button, hit that bell icon to be notified when we're putting out new content. Thanks for watching this video. Don't forget to leave me a comment below and leave me your flashing stories. And really appreciate your coming to our channel and taking a look. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a great day.